could you ignore? The ones that are voiceless scream from the poor. They only here to score. I do it for the underground kings that don't need more. I'm kicking down your door. If I wonder why you got a pocket full of green for.
Hey there, nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are proud to present our very first episode of a brand new series, a little mini-series on this channel, that we're calling Regiments of Renown. Regiments of Renown is a limited series that will be showcasing the assembly, building, painting of our studio's 3,000 plus Dogs of War army for Warhammer Fantasy Battle. And as you can see in this video, this is what the army is pretty much going to look like in its entirety. It has been fully assembled with movement trays being made for the entire army as well. All the miniatures have been assembled, and now begins the long process of priming, painting, and doing base work for the entire army, so that way we can start putting them into our Warhammer Fantasy Battle reports. And at the same time, it's kind of like a bittersweet series because this will probably be the very last Warhammer Fantasy Battle army that I actually assemble for this channel. We have, with this army being completed, once this army is complete, we'll have 16 armies in the studio's collection to use for battle reports that pretty much covers almost all facets of Warhammer Fantasy. And yeah, with that being said, that'll probably pretty much use up all the miniatures we have accumulated for the studio over the years of it being in this hobby as well. Now, if you guys remember, our hashtag for this channel that we like to use a lot is painted before played. And that's exactly kind of like a rule we kind of live by on this channel. Because we have such beautiful terrain and such beautiful armies being painted up, using unpainted miniatures in a battle report does look kind of amateurish on this channel, in our opinions anyways. So we like to paint up our armies first. And what this does is it kind of does two things. One, it creates a very professional looking battlefield when you're done, because you have fully painted miniatures on the video report, so it looks really, really good, especially when you combine it with Iron Mage's terrain that he makes. And at the same time, it also kind of motivates you to get the army completed with and fully painted up, so that way you can actually play with it. And so that's the main reason why we have the hashtag painted before play that we use in our channel. So that way it motivates us to get the project done, so that way we can actually start using it and moving on forward. So it's kind of a nice way of doing so. So if you're one of those players who struggles with actually completing an army or completing a project, it's actually a good philosophy to actually follow, because then you'll be dedicated to getting it done, and then once it's completed, you can then play with it, and then it's going to be really, really awesome as well. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. So we're going to paint up this army and base it and everything else like that, and then we'll be putting it in our battle reports for the Golden Age to make it look awesome. So as you can see here, this army, just like our Bretonian army that we've had before, as well as our Elizabethan army, this army is also very cobbled together. It's cobbled together from miniatures from a whole bunch of different miniature lines, as well as gaming systems. And the reason why that is the case is because on this channel, we use whatever miniatures we can get at the price that we can get them at for the lowest price possible. And that's how we go about building our armies. And that's exactly what we did for this Dogs of War army as well. Now this one is actually, oddly enough, is actually made up of leftover miniatures from a bunch of different gaming systems. And that's what we use to kind of create this, excuse me, kind of create this last army that we see here. So like I said before, it's approximately 3,000 points in size. It's actually 3,000, around 3,000, up to 3,500, depending on how you want to kit it out. And it looks really, really cool, and I can't wait to actually get this project going. So let's go and talk about exactly what you can expect in this army. So first of all, down below here, we're talking about our very first rank here. As you can see, excuse me, I do apologize, I do have allergies going on right now. First of all, we have what looks like to be a Hellblaster volley gun for the Empire, as well as a great cannon. I was able to get this kit used secondhand. I was able to get the undercarriage of one guy that was selling it. He didn't have very much of anything else. And another guy was selling an actual box set that you could actually use to create your Hellblaster volley gun or a Hellstorm rocket battery. So because I basically took the undercarriage of the one of these to create the Hellblaster volley gun, and the other undercarriage here to create the cannon as well. As you can see, the guys who are actually manning the weapon are actually a couple of miniatures I was able to get secondhand in order to make this group up as well. Now up here in the front, this is actually from a game system called Pike and Shot by Warlord Games. These guys are just like cavalry guys. These miniatures look familiar to you guys because these are exactly the same miniatures we used to make our mounted squires in our Bretonian army. I was able to get 20 of those secondhand for a really good price. And so 15 of those went to create the three different mounted squires we have. These guys, you can see, are armed with pistols to make them look a little bit different. These guys are going to be our Stratiotes, for our Dogs of War army, which is basically just mounted cavalry. We've got 5 of them. And the reason why I have them is because of this next unit over here. So you can see we have our 2 cannons from Battle Masters. This is what the original Battle Master cannon looked like with 2 crews, and it's also red. It's also kind of small as well. And this one's fully painted. You guys have seen this one for Empire Army. What I'm going to actually do is I'm going to actually get another cannon for the Empire Army. I'm going to actually paint up this one and use it for the studio's Empire Army. And I got another dwarf cannon that I have just kind of sitting around gathering dust right now. I'll paint that up and use it to be the great cannon for this army. Now the reason I'm using these 2 cannons is because there's an actual unit from the Regiment of Renown, which is a unit known as Bazonga's Galloper Guns. It's basically light cannons. They fire at strength 7. I believe they cause D3 wounds. And they have the Vanguard rule attached to them, and also they have a Swift Stride as well, so that way they can escape and move around the battlefield. Bazonga's Galloper Guns are perfect for actually getting on the flanks of your enemies and actually creating a crossfire with artillery. If you, just from you guys to see above, this is a very shooting heavy army. So because to represent those units, I have these 2 smaller Empire cannons from Battle Masters. They're kind of small, look like something that can be easily drawn by horse. And of course, this guy here is the Bazonga himself. Now this is actually a used miniature I was able to get. I'm not sure where I got the horse from. It was a long time ago when I got that horse, but I remember this guy here. He actually came from the old Empire Prince box set, except I was able to get the torso on the head. And I just took some arms from some Free Company miniatures to create the sword and the dagger for this guy. So this guy's going to be Bazonga himself, which is the special character that actually mans that Regiment of Renown. So we have that unit there. We also have these guys here with our shreddy outs, as well as the Hellblaster volley gun is going to be a Revolt, which is a multiple firing organ gun that the Dogs of War army has access to, and the other one's going to be a cannon as well. So we got 4 artillery pieces in this army. Now the next rank after that, we have 20 handgunners each. So you can see we have a unit of 20 handgunners here. These guys will be armed with light armor as well as devices, so that way they have a good armor safe against from being shot at. And at the same time, these guys will be armed with handguns as well, giving them strength 4 weapons, armor piercing. And at the same time, they have what you call it? They also have the ability to volley fire with their handguns as well. So this looks really cool. These miniatures are actually from a game called Pike and Shot as well. These guys are just normal infantry. I have an Imperial State Trooper drummer there to kind of help create the musician for this army. And then I have a second unit doing exactly the same thing. There are handgunners armed with devices and light armor, giving them 4 armor saving against shooting attacks. These guys, once again, are all created from a game called Pike and Shot as well. And the movement tray, if you guys wonder what that is, that's basically just backing board with fun foam to create the edges, and that's how I created the movement trays for these guys. So we have 2 units of 20 of those, so that makes up our part of our core. So you in a Dogs of War army, you can actually equip a unit of crossbowmen with handguns if you wanted to. And I'm actually using old 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy battle rules for Dogs of War. I was able to use the ones from the Warhammer Armies project, as well as just from Army Builder as well as the rules I'm using to create these guys. So if you're wondering what rule set I'm using, that's what I'm using as well. You can have 2 units of handgunners in a grand army of 3,000 points. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. So we have 2 of those units as well. And the reason why we're going with that route is because we're going with what's kind of known as a Tertio build in this army. I don't know if you guys remember, but when I first started up this channel, I actually did a Tertio series where I basically had a huge block of 80 pikemen or halberdiers from the Empire with 2 huge units of 40 handgunners apiece to be the, detachments of that unit. And the reason why is because you have this tactic during the Renaissance period called the Tertio that they used to use. It involved a block of pikemen or flanked by handgunners in order to do most of the killing in the battlefields of the Renaissance. So I decided to kind of go with that same idea with these guys. Next up here on the left-hand side of the back rank here, we have a Paymaster's Bodyguard unit. These guys have heavy armor as well as halberds. The Paymaster's Bodyguard are more of the special choices of an army. Also elite group. There's going to be 30 of these guys. And at the same time, you'll notice we have a couple of these guys are all Free Company militia guys from Warhammer Fantasy Battle. If you notice, these guys, some of these guys are painted up. These are because these are my Marienburg mercenaries from Mordheim that I used a long time ago when we used to do when we did our last set of Mordheim battle reports. So I decided to use those guys in order to create this unit, and this is going to be the Paymaster here, the guy with the little scroll, and this big ogre Paymaster is going to be the Paymaster's cart. I'm using the special character Midas the Mean in this army, so because of that, the big ogre is going to be the cart, as well as, I believe the guy's name is Sheik Yadush. I think his name is the guy that could travel with Midas the Mean. Who's a special character for a Paymaster's army. Every Dogs of War army needs to have a Paymaster. They're kind of like the battle standard bearer for the army. So that's what I decided to do these guys. And these guys would be the bodyguards for the Paymaster. So they're made up of Empire Free Militia. I think this guy right here is an alchemist from a game called Talisman. It's like kind of like a Hero Quest game that Games Workshop made a long time ago. And of course, the Ogre Paymaster is a Man-Eater miniature from the 8th edition of Warhammer Fantasy. Moving on to the center, this is Perazzo's Last Legion, which is another Regiment of Renown as well. It's actually a mixed unit with the crossbowmen in the front, with pikemen in the back. And this is also like the core of my army as well. And my general will be in this army, as well as some special characters. So this right here is going to be my general. This guy is going to be Gerlach Black Powder. This is the miniature from the Harrow Deep series. I thought it was kind of cool that they had an Ogre Man-Eater pirate. I thought it'd be kind of cool to use that miniature for the general of my army. He's going to be representing a merchant prince in from Dogs of War. He's going to have magic items, of course, and things like that. His Gerlach Black Powder, he's called the Baron of Bilgewater, is what I'm calling him for his special character. At the same time, I also have Gotrek, as you can see right there on the right-hand side, as well as Felix. So I got those special characters in this unit as well. Felix is actually from an old pewter miniature I got years ago. I'm not sure where I actually got. I got it from Gaming Store. They used to have like some leftover miniatures you can buy for like $1.50 a piece. So that's where I got this. I'm not sure what game system he's from, but I basically took an arm of a Runefang and put it on his arm right there. So that way he can have his sword. This is the Age of Sigmar Gotrek that came out a year or two ago. So I'm using that guy to play Gotrek as well. I got Empire Handgunners from, I think, the 6th edition of Warhammer Fantasy, as well as the 7th edition of Warhammer Fantasy. I got some pike and shot gunners back there as well. At the same time, my pikemen here are a combination of converted Imperial Spearmen from, I think, the 6th edition of Warhammer Fantasy battle, with some pike and shot pikemen as well. So this will be Perazzo's Lost Legion with my general, as well as Gotrek and Felix being attached to it as well. This is my character killing unit. It's also the center of my army as well. It's got a good match of stuff. I do know I'm going to be using the forward march strategy in this army. And what that does, that allows you at the beginning of your turn, your merchant prince, all units, the infantry units within 12 inches can move up forward like a vanguard move of 6 inches. So that way, even though if I put these guys in the maximum range of my deployment area, they won't be able to hit my enemy too easily, right? Because of that 24-inch range. But because I can move forward 6 inches forward, I'll be able to get full advantage using those handguns and start sniping out enemies at the range. And at the same time, reduce the range for my crossbowmen as well. So like I said before, this army is a very shooting heavy army with 20 crossbowmen, 40 handgunners, 2 light cannons, 1 great cannon, and 1 revolt. So this could be really nice to have all that shooting going on in this army as well. My plan pretty much is to shoot my enemy apart and then defeat my enemies with countercharges in this army. So it's going to be really, really cool. Now my next flanking unit here is kind of an interesting one. This is actually an undead unit. And this is another Regiment of Renown unit called the Cursed Company. And the Cursed Company is going to have 30 skeleton warriors led by a character named Richter. Oh, I think his name is Richter Kruger. His name is a special character who hates the undead. Represented by this white hero from the 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle. These skeleton warriors actually come from a game called Kings of War. This is from their undead army. Now the unit originally was supposed to be only 30 strong, but I do have 19 extra skeleton warriors, just in case, because how it works in the Cursed Company is that you don't really have necromancers to beef up the size of your army. So the Cursed Company, what it does, every single time it exit kill of an enemy miniature, you actually get a skeleton warrior added to your ranks. Now the original set was really cool. The original 4th edition set had like skeletons of beastmen and ogres and all kinds of cool stuff, but we can't really do that with this because those miniatures are really hard to find and also super expensive. So instead, I managed to get some Kings of War skeleton warriors for a pretty good price, secondhand, and that's what I'm using to make these guys as well. So that'll be the Cursed Company. The Cursed Company, as well as the Paymaster's Bodyguard, will defend my flanks, while my pikemen and my handgunners will be my center. My strategy is moving up forward with my Bazonga's guns to act as security for them so they can do flanking shots. And of course, these will be in the back. Now, the very last thing I have in the back, which is the pièce de résistance of this army, is actually my Man-Eater unit. This unit's going to be Goldfag's Man-Eaters. I'm going to have the Goldfag special character with 7 Man-Eaters in that unit as well. They'll be using their been there, done that rules. They'll be armed with heavy armor. They'll have multiple weapons options. I'm thinking like additional hand weapons in the front rank and great weapons in the back ranks. So that way they got the strength and the multiple attacks as well. I could also use the Goldfag special character if I wanted to as well. So that's kind of neat as well. It's another Regiment of Renown that I could put in this army too. Now, of course, if I include this, it's going to put this army around 3,500 points, but if I don't, I can also put that there as well. Now, if I decided to fight at a larger size than 3,000 points, I do have a bunch of extra miniatures from games like Warcry and other games like that, so I can usually use those to make up things like duelists and pit fighters and all kinds of different things I could add to this army as well to make it look really, really cool. And that's the neat thing about a Dogs of War army. A Dogs of War army, you can use miniatures from all kinds of lines to represent the fact that they're different, different mercenaries fighting for it. Because Dogs of War armies are supposed to be armies made up of mercenaries. So yeah, this is pretty much the army that I'm going to be using to build up the Dogs of War army. It's very, very cobbled together. Very neat looking, kind of shows you all the different races and stuff. The name for this army that I'm tentatively going with is called the Saints of Sartosa. That's what I plan on calling this army. The Saints of Sartosa are supposed to be like pirates, mercenary scum from Sartosa. Sartosa is supposed to be a series of islands, an archipelago of pirate strongholds near Tilia. And they, they're pirates and freebooters and smugglers and thieves, and they basically go out in the old world and cause problems and hiring their services out to the highest bidder. And that's what this army is going to be. It's called the Saints of Sartosa. And it's ruled by Captain Gerlock Blackpowder, the Baron of Bilgewater. So yeah, really super excited about putting this army together. Took a long time coming. Now I'm looking forward to painting it up and filming it as quickly as I possibly can in order to play games of Warhammer Fantasy Battle. So that's good for this one, guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is valuable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blog.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this one, you guys. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.